Welcome back to the channel, everyone. What you currently see on your screen is a list of the free agent signings from day one of NBA free agency. Today's video here, we're just going to sit and have a talk about a lot of these teams and players in specific, not the blockbuster day in which we thought we would see initially, but some big small moves made by a lot of key teams trying to get to that competitive level in the NBA. So right here, we're funneling through all of these moves. Like I said, a significant amount of moves made in day one. As soon as this thing opened up, we're going through the list here. We saw a lot of moves made, some good, some bad, some overpays. And I'm going to touch on the overpay subject as we get through this because it's kind of a touchy one, kind of a funny one to get through. And right here we see we're concluding the list. Now we're at the Cleveland Cavaliers, getting to the Chicago Bulls. Hopefully you can funnel through these moves and look at all of this, all of the years and deals. But now, some interesting teams and players I want to talk about in specific as always. And I'm going to start this up back at the top of the list. And that's Kyle Kuzma re-signing with the Washington Wizards. Kind of an interesting move to me. And basically is saying to me, I'm looking at the direction of this team because you were holding on to Bradley Beal for so long. When you first signed him to the max extension, a lot of people had questions. What are we doing here? Because we saw the duo with John Wall and Bradley Beal. We had the one-year rental on Russell Westbrook, and none of that necessarily worked. Now, I love the duo with John Wall and Bradley Beal a couple years ago, though, and we never truly got over the hump with that team, being able to surround them with pieces. So now, you got off of him finally, being able to move him to the Phoenix Suns in a pretty sweet deal. You know, you got off of the contract, you're now in a good position to do some things, and then you stunned a lot of people when you went out and got Jordan Poole. But now, I thought, okay, this was Jordan Poole's team. We still got some young guys like Denny Avicii. We still got Corey Kispert. These young guys in here, Jordan Poole, I thought it was a youth movement. But then you go out and you sign Kyle Kuzma. You keep him with the team. You don't let him walk. And now I'm questioning, you know, this could still be Jordan Poole's team. I'm not saying that it can't, but when we have Kyle Kuzma with all of these young guys, with the Jordan Poole, what are we really trying to do? Because now in today's NBA, we see the climate. Now, a lot of people are talking about this second apron, where we have the luxury tax being so penalizing in the NBA. If you're paying over the luxury tax, you're not going to be able to field a good team. You're going to have to sign a bunch of guys to a bunch of vet minimums, and that's not going to field a good bench. So with that being said, we're going to see some more balanced teams in the NBA. That's something we can foresee. The days of LeBron, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade, those days are gone. And we saw the bench that they had there. They had a Rashard Lewis. They had a Ray Allen. That's not going to be the case in the NBA no more. It's more going to be balanced like the Denver Nuggets, having that freak superstar like a Nikola Jokic, like the Joker, and then you have that great number two in Jamal Murray, and then you surround that with the young guys, with the young core, a Christian Brown stepping up, a Michael Porter Jr. getting healthy, a Bruce Brown who's now on the Pacers. That's kind of the team that we're going to see built. But even with that, I still don't think the Pacers have a team where they have a freakishly talented superstar. Now, I'm rooting for Jordan Poole. I want him to go out there and average north of 20 points. I want him to prove everyone wrong in saying that he can't be a superstar in the league. I think he has a pretty deep bag, very talented scorer. But Kyle Kuzma, like I said, I aforementioned the young guys. I don't see what was the vision. Now, you didn't get worse with the move, and that's what I look at with free agency. Did we get better? Did we get worse? We talk about moving the needle. Did we stay stagnant? I think you stayed stagnant. You didn't get better. You didn't get worse. But of course, I mean, you keep the young guy. You let him try to prove himself some more. And I don't know how I truly feel about that, but it's a pretty solid move. Can't knock it. It was just kind of interesting to me that they kept him and that they paid him this amount of money. Now, getting into the Toronto Raptors, kind of a shaky day for them. I like that they kept Jakob Poeltl because you kind of know what you're getting out of him. You're getting a double-double every night with him, pretty good defensively. Dennis Schroeder bringing him in, had some good basketball with the Lakers, and then you got off Fred VanVleet. He got a lot of money. But with the Toronto Raptors, kind of one of those other teams in the NBA. Like I said, these teams, I can see the integrity part of this. They want to compete. They want to be in the thick of things, in the middle of it. But I don't see either of these teams competing in the Eastern Conference. That's truly how I feel about it. Now, I like Scotty Barnes. I like Pascal Siakam. But with this team, I don't understand from a talent perspective, how are they building these guys? Because I don't think they have a lot of complementary pieces. Now you add Dennis Schroeder with a Scotty Barnes, with a Pascal, with a Jakob Poeltl. Talent-wise, I don't see how these guys' talents complement each other. Now, Pascal Siakam, I do think he's an all-star in this league. Like I said, a pretty good team, but they're not really working together as unison is what I'm looking at when I see this team. So it's a pretty good move. Now, like I said, you get off of Fred VanVleet, you bring in Dennis Schroeder, also a pretty solid starter in this league. So again, you didn't get, you can say you got worse, but Fred VanVleet had a pretty tough year last year. That's kind of the nature of it. And seeing the contract that he got coming off of that tough year, now we're looking at that. Now we're saying, okay, is this where the market really was for Fred VanVleet? Or do they value some other things in that Houston Rockets locker room? I'm going to talk about that later as well. And another interesting team, the Sacramento Kings, we can see right here, kept Trey Lyles. They also paid Harrison Barnes to keep him, which I didn't see right here listed, but a pretty good move. Now, with the Sacramento Kings, I talked about why I love the Sacramento Kings, why they're one of the best teams in basketball, and it's offense, offense, offense. But I talked about it. When the offense breaks down, who's going to hang their hat on the defense? And it wasn't the Sacramento Kings. Now, you fought tooth and nail with the Golden State Warriors, ended up losing that series, but it was very interesting for me from a standpoint of, okay, we got the young guys. De'Aaron Fox is showing himself. He's blossoming into that superstar right in front of our eyes. We got Domantas Sabonis, and we got a Malik Monk. We had Harrison Barnes. We didn't know if we would keep him, but we still got Davion Mitchell. We still got Kevin Huerter, and I really like that young core. But when I saw it, I said, okay, add one more. And I thought this free agency was the place to add that one more. There's some pretty solid guys, and we're going to see available. Still some guys on the market, but you paid Trey Lyles, you paid Harrison Barnes. I think you kind of take yourself out of that, and now you've capped yourself in this free agency. So the draft selections, the free agency, I think this is kind of the team we can expect to go into the season. Now, there's some kind of different things we can expect. Of course, we're going to expect player development, and then they traded Rashawn Holmes. So really from the center position, defensively, I really want to see what these guys do and what is the plan for this team. But I trust in Mike Brown, love him as a coach. So I want to see how they work with the same team and how they remain competitive in a conference where a lot of teams are making a lot of good moves. One of the teams making those good moves, the Phoenix Suns. Now, you see a plethora of moves here by the Phoenix Suns and a team that brought in Bradley Beal. A lot of people said, okay, you got Bradley, you got Ayton, you got KD, and you got Devin Booker. Your bench is going to be terrible, but they made some moves to show that the bench is not going to be terrible. I see a Damian Lee. I see Drew Eubanks coming over from Portland. And then I see Keita Bates-Diop. So when I look at these players, okay, I'm seeing pretty solid rotational players. Now, they don't need a sixth man of the year. They don't need a guy who's going to come off the bench, who's going to be dominant, who's going to be a guy who can start on a lot of teams. They don't need that because you got so much firepower in the starting lineup. So I think now, with that being said, we just need some complementary pieces. And I harp on complementary because the talents have to fit each other. And I think that with this being said, them not going to get a point guard, is Cameron Payne going to be that guy? I think that's a question we have to ask. Or is Devin Booker going to blossom more into that playmaking role? Because I talked about that. I saw him doing the playmaking things when Chris Paul was hurt. And we know Chris Paul was hurt a lot for this Phoenix Suns team. So him stepping into that role, being a guy who can pass the ball and also get his own. Is that going to take away from his efficiency as a scorer? Would it really matter when you have Bradley Beal, when you still have Kevin Durant? So this may be a new version of Devin Booker that we're going to see. And I think a lot of people have to get ready for that. I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to work truly defensively. Now, talking about these pieces right here, like I said, we were able to keep Josh Okogie, and that's going to be a huge piece because we know what he blossomed into as a defender, especially in the playoffs. Love seeing him, so they were able to keep him for a fairly cheap deal. That's only $2 million a year. And then you bring in Chimezie Metu, a guy who was pretty solid for the Sacramento Kings. Like I said, I love these rotational players, and I think with the salary cap, with them not having a lot of money, they made some pretty sweet moves. I think they did the best they could. So I would say this is a team that got better today. I like a lot of these things. Now, let's look above that. Above these Phoenix Suns listings, we see the Portland Trail Blazers, and it's Portland to Portland. That means they brought a guy back. They re-signed a guy. That's Jeremy Grant. Now, with this Jeremy Grant deal, I have so many questions. This could be a video all in itself with Jeremy Grant, with the Trailblazers in their direction. Now, they drafted Scoot Henderson, a guy who I believe would be a #1 overall pick in a lot of drafts, except when you have a 7'5" freak coming out of the draft. So, with that being said, They have a point guard, a guy who some view as generational, some view as all-star caliber. And you still got Damian Lillard, a guy who's trying to get himself into that legacy, into that top 10 point guard status, because he has a lot of the statistics. He has a lot of the accolades. He's done it at a very high level, but he needs that ring to cement himself as kind of a Hall of Famer and kind of one of those guys who's been there. Is one of the guys who we look back and say, okay, he was one of the best point guards to ever suit up in the NBA. And I think that now, with that being said, he talks about loyalty 1 minute, and then he talks about he doesn't want to play with young guys. He doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. I don't know what you're a part of right now, because you re-signed Jeremy Grant. That's not a rebuild. That's a pretty solid player who can average 20 points, a little over that. But with that being said, now we got Scoot. We still got Yusuf Nurkic, who we're paying, but we know his health status, and we still got Nasir Little. We have guys. We can make the playoffs. We can be around the play-in bubble. We can be a 6th, 5th seed. We're not winning a ring, especially in that Western Conference. So is Damian, because he said all he wants is a chance. I don't see the chance with the Portland Trail Blazers right now. So another team that we're going to talk about, the Miami Heat. They lost 2 key guys in this free agency. So is this a move that's kind of setting up something that we don't know? And I look at it, I see Damian Lillard. Now, he could also be traded to a team that's not the Miami Heat. That's something that's still in play that we still have to talk about. But I think with them losing their 2 guys, and Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, with Jeremy Grant being re-signed, I got to go with the Anthony Simons movement. I got to go Anthony and Scoot. That's the only way I can see this thing panning out, because yes, Anthony can come off the bench. Yes, Scoot can come off the bench, but do we really want to do that in a crowded backcourt? How is that really? Our salary, our team, a lot of our touches are going to 3 players who kind of try to do the same things. Even with Damian Lillard being a better shooter than Anthony and Scoot Henderson, but I just can't see it. Like I said, complementary pieces. This is not complementing, and this is also not getting you to a championship. You're not going to have a quote-unquote chance with this team. So the interesting move of the day. Now, I like Jeremy Grant. Like I said, not a bad player, but you didn't make any moves. You didn't trade the number 3 overall pick. So I have to say this was a loser for today. It takes me a lot to get to that point, but I have to say the Portland Trail Blazers were a loser on the day. Didn't get any superstars in the room. Now, we understand with the uncertainty. Would it be Brandon Miller available? Would it be Scoot Henderson available? There was some uncertainty there. Now, we could have easily said after Brandon Miller got picked number 2 overall, a team who wants Scoot, we're basically trading Scoot. We could have tried to get something, but maybe the trade value wasn't as high for that. So, like I said, and what player could you really get at this point, which would also make you a championship contender? So I don't think it's bringing a guy in. I think it's getting Dame out, but it's a lot of confusion with that situation, so we don't really know. Now, some more moves we can talk about. Joe Ingles going over from Milwaukee, coming over to the Orlando Magic. I really like that move. Bringing in shooting. Now, they drafted Anthony Black. They had some pretty interesting moves in the draft. I like the players they got, but I thought they were going to get Asora Thompson. Asora Thompson went to the Pistons. Now they had to pivot. They couldn't get some other guys who they were looking at. So Anthony Black, a very good basketball player. Now, I love his IQ. He's going to be a crowded backcourt, though. He's going to be a guy who I think can facilitate, can defend, can do a lot of things, can be a leader, a starting point guard in this league. But when you have a Markelle Fultz, when you have all of these guys in the backcourt, what's his role going to be? Now, in that bigger frame, he could, of course, slide over to the 2. But with that being said, he's not a great shooter. That was the biggest knock on Anthony Black coming out of the draft. So you say, okay, we're pivoting. We're getting a guy who we know can shoot the basketball. We think about all those times with a Milwaukee, with the Utah Jazz. Joe Ingles was a 3-and-D player. Now, at this point in his career, we can see 35.7 years old. He's 36, and he's not going to be the most athletic guy, but I don't think they need that. I look at Franz Wagner, I look at Wendell Carter, I look at Paolo Banchero. I think they're pretty solid athletically. They just need a guy who's savvy, who's a veteran, who can lead a young team, and also, with that being said, can shoot the 3-pointer. I think they can make some more moves, but this was one of the more interesting, sneaky, big moves. We talk about being stagnant, getting worse, moving the needle. This is a team who got better today. And with the New Orleans Pelicans, another good move that I like, keeping Herb Jones. And this is 4 years, $53 million. Now, I'm seeing what some of these other guys are getting, and I'm seeing Herb Jones getting 4 years, $53 million. I think that was a steal. I want to know what you guys think about this, but we know Herb Jones. He's a defender. Going to keep working on his shot, but he's a defender at this point in his career. And what we're seeing for some of these guys, some of these role players, they're getting more than that. Max Strus got more than him. I would take Herb Jones over Max Strus. Now, like I said, we pay a guy for what he's going to be. And I think Herb Jones is a guy who has potential, has intangibles to be better than this contract when it's 2 years in. Now, of course, he can get an extension. Things can work like that. But right now, I have to love the move. He's going to be in a prime position when he gets better, when he hits his prime of his career to get another contract. The New Orleans Pelicans, they're getting a player who we see some teams are playing $80 million for, $90 million for. They're getting that at $53 million. So I really like that move. I think you got, I wouldn't say you got better because, of course, he was already on the team, but I do think you kind of future-proof yourself with what he brings to the team, with his position. Now, some other moves we could talk to. Another sneaky move, Minnesota. Getting Shake Milton. I really like Shake Milton, being a guy who can come off the bench and score. Now, with this team, of course, they traded some guys. We look at the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're kind of interesting. Got guys breaking their hands, got guys getting suspended. It's a lot going on with the team, but that's in the past. Bringing him in, kind of, I wouldn't say he's a veteran at this point of his career, but he's a little older, 27 as we can see right here. Pretty good guard, Anthony Edwards. Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, they're kind of running it back. And when I saw this team, I said it, okay, yes, I like this team. Yes, they're pretty good. But their bench, and I'm not saying the bench was terrible because it wasn't terrible. But when the injuries came in, they couldn't sustain it. They didn't have enough depth. And I think adding this player, you add more depth to that team. So we have to look at that. Troy Brown, added him in, a guy who can shoot the ball, who can defend pretty solid. He did a lot of that for the Lakers. So these are two moves. We see Nickeil Alexander-Walker stayed with the team. So 3 moves in total. I think they got a little better today. I have to say that. I really like Shake Milton. I really like Troy Brown, although Troy Brown a bit inconsistent, but he's going to get better. Still a young guy in his career. Now, Milwaukee Bucks, they kept Chris Middleton, 3 years, $102 million. I like the move. Like I said, I talk about getting better, getting worse. You kind of staying the same. Brook Lopez is a guy who's still available as I'm recording this video. Now, with my luck, I'm talking about that. Brook Lopez is probably going to be going as soon as this video gets posted. That's just how things go in the basketball league. But he's a guy who's on the market, and based on how I see teams viewing Brook Lopez, how I view Brook Lopez, I don't know if Milwaukee can retain him. Now, they may be able to get a pretty good offer, but some teams can use that 3-and-D so well. I mean, still has the post-scoring ability at this point in his career. Of course, he can stretch the floor. Of course, he's a rim protector. Even at his age, he's one of the premier centers in basketball, and I just want to see who gets him. So that's a guy I have my eye on with some other guys. Now, another team, the Memphis Grizzlies. I really like the combination of their draft with some pretty solid players who I think have upside, and I like the trade from Marcus Smart. I can see the Memphis Grizzlies said, okay, we have talent. Talent is not the problem. Also, they extended Desmond Bane to the max extension. So they said, okay, let's take a step back. Taylor Jenkins, let's take a step back. We got talent. We got John Morant, one of the best point guards in the NBA. We can say that without anything. But we got Desmond Bane. We got JJJ. He's going to be year in, year out. He's going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. So still got Steven. I really like what we have from a talent perspective, but something's missing. Something's clicking. Why do we do a little more talking than we do performing in some of the highest moments? Why do we seem to lose our cool in some of the highest moments? Why do we seem to have some of these off-court things which are just kind of unnecessary for our team? And we think about it, we bring in Marcus Smart. Boom. Okay, that's solving some of that right there. We think about that young Celtics team and what he did for them when Kyrie Irving came in, and he was kind of a cancer in that situation to the Boston Celtics locker room. They said, okay, boom, Marcus Smart, be that guy, step up and lead. Came in, got better, challenged himself year in and year out, became a good shooter, because we think about coming out of Oklahoma State, was not the best shooter, became a better shooter. Now, his shot selection is kind of on and off. I do want to say that, but okay, boom. We saw in the finals against the Warriors, we returned the ball over. I couldn't get Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown easy shots. I'm going to get better at that. We saw the assist numbers go up, playing some of his best basketball in the regular season. Okay, boom. Now, they got to pay some guys in Boston. So There's no hard love, and I think even if in the future he has a spot to go back to the Celtics, but right now they can't do it. So gets traded, goes to the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, I got Ja Morant. Now, I am interested to see the fit. Marcus Smart is a guy who I think can play the two, but I'm still interested to see that fit when Ja comes off of his suspension. Now, with that being said, you still got some pretty good guards on this team, but he's going to be a leader. He can defend. He can shoot the ball. So I really have to like what they're going to do. He's probably going to start at the point guard, Desmond Bane at the two. We're talking about before Ja Morant comes back. And like I said, when he comes back, from a size standpoint, I do want to see how the front court and the back court pan out, but I really like those moves. And now Derrick Rose. Think about Ja Morant. Think about Derrick Rose, a young Derrick Rose being a guy, being the youngest MVP. He's doing it at a very high level, being successful in the playoffs, all that he's done, having high seeds in the Eastern Conference. But boom, had the ACLs, and I think that he can tell Ja a lot. I mean, being a guy who was on top of the mountain, and we always have this conversation, prime Ja, prime Derrick Rose. I'm taking prime Derrick Rose every day of the week, not even thinking about it twice, but we have that conversation, a guy who he's compared to, and we look at the play styles, high flying, can pass the basketball, both don't really rely on their jump shot heavily. I mean, from a veteran standpoint, this contract, there's no amount that can talk about what he's going to bring to Ja specifically. Now, of course, he can be a leader for a lot of guys on this team, but Derrick Rose and Ja Morant, I mean, we have to think about the connection. I think about Udonis Haslem, what he's done for Bam, what he's done for Eric Spoelstra, being kind of that extension. Even with the Jimmy Butler situation when they got into it, he was the guy who had that culture, who brought that in, kind of kept things straight on that team. So I don't think there's a number value that can talk about what Derrick Rose is going to bring. I really have to love this move for this team. A really, really underrated thing. Now, the Los Angeles Lakers, I talked about the Phoenix Suns. This is another team who did some things. They did some things and they came big and they came hard. Now, I look at Rui Hachimura. You were able to keep him. And all of these guys right here, we see that they brought in Gabe Vincent. Boom, okay. He had very good playoff performances. Played even with the ankle injury. Did that gritty, tough, can defend even though he's a bit undersized, can shoot the ball. Now, of course, you're going to have some bad shooting nights. But as far as shooting the ball and what the Lakers need, because shooting the ball for the Lakers was kind of a struggle. But we bring in Gabe Vincent. Okay, we got to love that. Now, Cam Reddish, a guy who's still young with upside. And we probably say, how often and how many times are we going to say young with upside? On the Knicks, it didn't pan out. On the Portland Trailblazers, it didn't pan out. Now he's on the Lakers. I mean, from guys who've been there, kind of done that, from a LeBron, from an AD, some guys he can learn from in that room, I like Cam Reddish, and he has all of the talent, but it's about putting it together. And if you're going to put it together, this is going to be a team where you can do it. Like I said, I want to be kind of sketchy in my optimism because at this point, he hasn't shown that guy that we saw at Duke with RJ Barrett and with Zion Williamson, but I think he can be a pretty solid player for this team. Taurean Prince, a guy who can shoot the basketball from the Minnesota Timberwolves, did a lot of that, can also play defense, pretty solid as far as size profile. So we add that in, and we think about the Lakers. They became a better defensive team. They were also able to keep Jarrett Vanderbilt because they had that team option on them. So with that being said, I have to love what they were able to do. Brought in Jackson Hayes, a guy who was also drafted pretty high and freakishly athletic. That's what I think about when I think about Jackson Hayes, defending the rim, dunking the basketball. Now, is this going to allow AD to get some more minutes at the 4? We know AD, he said it. I like playing the 4 when I can. And I think about DeMarcus Cousins and AD. That was a beautiful stretch of basketball. So if we can get him, I don't know if Jackson Hayes will start per se, but if he can be off the bench, and then when he comes in the game, AD can slide to the 4, I would love that as well. I think it's a pretty solid move. Like I said, can run with this team, gonna be able to get pace. That's what we think about. And energy, rebounding, defense. We brought in Tristan Thompson to kind of help some of that because we were struggling from that standpoint. Now, I really like Thomas Bryant, had to move him. Mo Bamba didn't get the run which we thought he would, but now we bring in a guy who's young, who has upside. And I think with these moves, they're kind of future-proofing themselves just a little bit. Post-LeBron, it's going to be a pretty solid team. AD staying healthy. When LeBron retires, I think they will still be a team who can be competitive just a bit. Now, Some other teams I want to get to. We see Bruce Brown Jr. Now, Mike Malone, you gotta be embarrassed. I mean, the parade after the NBA Finals, you said Bruce Brown, you're not going nowhere. And I think we've all said that, regardless of what it was about. I think we've all said somebody or something wasn't going nowhere, then it left. Bruce Brown, they said he wasn't going nowhere, then he left. 2 years, $45 million with a team option to the Indiana Pacers, and I really like that young core. I made a video talking about Jarris Walker. That all defensive upside, he's going to be a guy who's going to come in and defend right away. Help side defense, can play on the ball, going to work on that some more, but also low post defense, just built like an NBA body already, 6'8", 245 plus. So I love him as a player. Still got Nimhart, still got Benedict Mathurin, still got Buddy Hield, Tyrese Halliburton, a guy who I have not touched on yet. He got another max extension. I don't know if a lot of people know Tyrese Halliburton because he plays in kind of a small market in Indy, but that's not an overpay. That is what the doctor ordered for Tyrese Halliburton, and he deserves every penny. A guy who can pass the basketball, finish at the rim, shoot the basketball. He's an all-star guard. And when you have all-star players in small markets, they get max extensions. There's really nothing around that. Now, interesting team we got here. Houston Rockets. And I said I was going to talk about it when I got to it. Fred VanVleet. Now, you have Fred VanVleet on this team, and I think that it's kind of coming off the year, though. It was interesting for me. Now, I'm not going to try to justify this. I wouldn't have made this move particularly. Before this team, you still got Ime Udoka. Maybe he can get the best out of Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet being a veteran in the league at this point in his career, being a guy who came from undrafted, now to the highest paid undrafted player ever, being an undrafted guy who made the all-star team. He's going to be a leader for this team. That's really all I can think about. Of course, he's a good player, but when I look at this contract, I think some of the intangibles and off-the-court things play into it as well. We brought in Amen Thompson, who I wanted to see start alongside Jalen Green, but maybe this will take away from that. Now, will Jalen Green, I don't see Jalen Green kicking down to the three. Of course he can, but I don't see that. You know, Amen Thompson, I think he's best with the ball in his hands, although he has the height and length to play the three. So, really interesting. Of course, we got to trust Ime at the end of the day. Still got some other good guards in that backcourt on that roster. Ty Washington. Of course, I love Alperen Sengun. I love Eason. I like the young core. I like the team. Jabari Smith. Hopefully, he can get better. Show me what I saw at Auburn. But you got better today. But at what cost? I'm gonna look at it like that. You got better today, but at what cost for the Houston Rockets? Because I think that you have some pretty good guards already. Is he gonna get the best out of these guys? Will Ime Udoka get the best out of him going hand in hand with that? So something I really want to wait and see. Not gonna say it's a loss because you didn't get worse bringing in an all-star caliber guard. Gotta be in the middle with that one. Now, Golden State Warriors, they said, okay, we want another ring. That's basically what I got out of this. We kept Draymond. You know, we got off Jordan Poole's contract even a year after we gave him the extension, but I have to like it. I think we know what works. And with this team, we're kind of buying in back into it because we kind of bought out of it. We got away from ourselves a little bit. We weren't that defensive identity last year. We took some ill-advised shots. That didn't look like a Steve Kerr team to me. That didn't look like a Golden State Warriors team to me, what I saw in the playoffs. So now we have to think about this team and think about everything they can do and what they will do now. I think that Draymond, 4 years, $25 million a year. I think that Klay Thompson, all of these guys are kind of in that last stage of their prime, but I do believe they can get one more. Now, we look at the guys around them in the supporting cast. They're going to have to be challenged and step up and really grow up kind of fast for this team because this is not a team who can wait. This is not a team who can sit around, who has all the time in the world. I think this is a move that's saying, even next year, we're trying to compete. If we can stay healthy, we'll be a team who's in the thick of things, who can win another ring because they beat the Boston Celtics in the finals. So I do like it from that standpoint. I like that you're keeping the core intact, keeping the culture intact. With Jordan Poole, he was never going to reach his full potential with the Golden State Warriors. I think that's something we have to face with Klay, with Steph. You're not getting off of Klay to keep Jordan Poole. That was never in the move. So also we still got Wiggs. I really like Wiggs, being pretty young still. So this was a good move, and I think this is a team, although they traded Jordan Poole, I think they got better. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's so much on the court, because Jordan Poole is a very talented player. Of course, you'd love to keep him if you could. But when we talk about culture, playing together, playing defense, having that identity, I think they got better because they're getting back to what they had. So I have to love that move for them. Now, the Denver Nuggets keeping some of their guys in-house, not really huge, but Reggie Jackson, pretty solid backup point guard at this stage in his career. DeAndre Jordan, pretty solid guy, can soak up some minutes at the center position. Now, Dallas Mavericks, I have to say, a reunion with Seth Curry. I like that move for them. Now, he's not a defender, and I think adding defense is going to be crucial for them, or some guys developing as defenders. But Kyrie Irving, you couldn't have him as just that half-season rental. You couldn't do that because you gave up some things to get him. So now we bring him in, re-sign him 3 years, $126 million, have a player option on the back end of that, and I think that's a big reason as to why he kind of signed and accepted that deal. You know, Kyrie Irving's market, contrary to his talent, it wasn't the biggest market that we would think about in the NBA. So a good move for him, a good move for them. They got better adding Seth Curry. They got better. I really like Derek Lively. So I look at their draft and I look at their free agency, a sneaky team. A sneaky team. Still got some things I'm questioning and still got some things I want to see. But overall, and also traded for Rashawn Holmes, like I said. So you got better in this offseason. Now, the Cleveland Cavaliers, George Niang, Max Strus, Karis LeVert re-signed. I look at this and I say, okay, we got better, but at what cost? Max Strus, I like Max Strus. Now, being a guy who is a Heat guy, I'm a Heat guy, and I watched Max Strus. I watched a lot of him, and he's not a great defender. That's kind of the thing with him. Now, seeing how the Cleveland Cavaliers, seeing JB Bickerstaff, and seeing how he's been able to kind of mask some of these guys who aren't the best individual defenders. We thought about Donovan Mitchell. He was a terrible defender with Rudy Gobert. We think about Darius Garland. He's not, he plays defense, but he's kind of undersized. But Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. That's all you need to know. Two guys who can also be all defensive guys, who can be in the running. Evan Mobley can be in the running for a defensive player of the year. That is what you need to know. So with that, with Max Strus, I think they needed a 3. I like Isaac Okoro, but it wasn't the guy for me. So they kind of needed a 3 to upgrade that. And it was going to be tough to get one when you have Darius Garland, when you have Donovan Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen. So now we pivot and think about what can we do next. And Max Strus was kind of that next tier, next level guy right there for us. So we got him in. And he's going to come bring shooting to a team who needed shooting. Like I said, I love their defense. I love their guards. I love their front court. George Niang, another shooter. Not a great defender, though. We saw what he did for Philly. Doc Rivers kind of leaned on him in some moments, being that guy in the corner, being that guy on the wing, big time. Joel Embiid getting double teamed. We kick it out to Niang. He's hitting the 3. So I like this move. Think they got better. Don't know, was it worth the cost, but I do think they got better. Now, looking at the Chicago Bulls, some pretty solid moves. You kept a young guy in Kobe White. Javon Carter, a veteran in that room, bringing him in. He's a good basketball player. So you got better, but overall, don't see them competing in the East. Still got Levine, still got DeRozan, brought back Vooch. I like Patrick Williams. I really like the team. I like their players. And this is a good team. Like I said, a team who's on the bubble can be around that 6th, 5th seed. But as far as the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, getting into a conference finals, I don't know if I see that. Now, with Lonzo Ball, and it's so unfortunate because if they had Lonzo Ball, I think we're having a very different conversation. I think we are. But Javon Carter, a good player, he may... Gonna be interesting between him and Kobe White as far as minutes, but I do like both of them. Kobe White coming out of North Carolina, being a highly recruited guy, highly touted in the draft, so he still has some upside with him. You're paying a guy for what he's going to do, like I've said already, but I have to see it. DeRozan or Levine, DeRozan coming up on a contract, Levine being a guy who's been in trade talks for the past 3 seasons, is a move on the rise. And I'm going to leave this one with a question mark. I can't really grade it. I do think you got better adding Javon Carter, but I can't really grade the team because I don't know what the direction is. I like the team, but can you compete? You're not bad, but kind of stuck on that one. Now, Boston Celtics didn't really do much. We know what they have on their table with Jaylen Brown and Tatum. Still interested to see that. Now, Cameron Johnson, they offered him a deal, didn't have to match anybody, so they went and got him, stayed on the team. I like him, a young piece, keep him with Mikal. Brought in Dennis Smith, a guy who, one of the guys I loved in the draft process, still fairly young in his career, but hasn't gotten it going yet. Playing for the Knicks, playing for the Hornets, just hasn't been able to live up to what we saw in high school, what we saw in college, and what we expected, but some pretty good depth on this team. I want to see what Cam Thomas does on this team. Now, that's touching on a lot of them. Now, this is probably one of the longer videos, but I do have a lot of things to touch on, and hopefully you guys can enjoy this. Now, the available players. We look at these guys, some pretty solid players. Just want to touch on a few of them because, like I said, some of these moves might be made by the time this video is posted, and we're probably going to come back with another video touching on that. But Westbrook, the Lakers still have to make a move, get something done with D'Lo. I think Gabe Vincent is the backup point guard in this scenario. So you keep D'Lo. What are you going to do with Reeves, though? We can see him right here. I don't know. Particularly, I think Reeves is going to command some money from a team. Now, Malik Beasley, interesting guy, pretty solid player. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were able to keep Beasley. Christian Wood, a pretty solid player. I think they have to keep him. I love what he can do for that team. Kelly Oubre, Dylan Brooks. He's not going back to Memphis. So who is going to use Dylan Brooks? A guy who's looking for a bigger role, looking for a pretty big contract from what I've heard, from what I've seen out of him. Jay Crowder, a guy who's always on the winning team. Veteran in the league. Mason Plumlee, DiVincenzo. Somebody's going to pick up Miles Bridges in this free agency period. I just want to kind of prepare us for that and say that because it's going to happen. Eric Gordon, Patrick Beverly, Barton, a guy who can help a team on the bench. And then, beyond that, we got some pretty solid guys. Torrey Craig, Jeff Green, some pretty Matisse Thybulle. I think they definitely have to keep him in my eyes. Grant Williams. So, yeah, this kind of wraps it up. And I think the biggest name left on the market, Brook Lopez. Who's going to get Brook Lopez? And that's what I'm going to leave you with for this video. I want you guys to let me know in the comments the Brook Lopez sweepstakes. The best guy who I think is available right now in free agency. Can the Milwaukee Bucks keep him? Can a team swoop in and he be that final piece to their championship as that 3-and-D big? This was a very good video. Got a lot of talking points out of the way. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Subscribe for more content as we cover the hottest topics in all of sports. So that's going to do it for today's show. Wrapping it up. What do we think about this free agency so far? The burning question. So, like I said, my winner right now, I have to give my winner before I get out of here, Los Angeles Lakers. Clap it up for the Lakers. They've done a good job in the free agency period. Also, the Suns being a close second to that. Really like what both of those teams are doing, but that's going to do it for today's video. And now, we out.